Welcome to episode 17 of the Princeton Podcast with Mayor Mark Freda. In this episode, Mark sat down with Drew Dyson, CEO of the Princeton Senior Resource Center, whose programs include social and recreational activities, health and fitness classes, educational and enrichment programs, technology assistance, retirement planning, and volunteer activities. In addition to discussing the Princeton Senior Resource Center's programs, Drew also described their newly opened additional facility at 101 Poor Farm Road, offering expanded space for classrooms, meeting rooms, and a variety of gathering spaces both inside and outdoors. So without any further introduction, let's join our host, Mark Freda, and his guest, Drew Dyson, for episode 17 of the Princeton Podcast.
Drew, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So let me start with a question here. Drew, from a 30,000 foot level, what is PSRC, or the Princeton Senior Resource Center?
Well, the Princeton Senior Resource Center is a community nonprofit, and we exist primarily to help older adults thrive. We have been in the Princeton community for nearly 50 years. We started in 1974 out of Spruce Circle, and we exist to provide support and guidance to older adults and their families. We seek to provide vital human connections and compassionate social services, as well as dynamic lifelong learning opportunities and meaningful volunteer programs for people in the retirement years of their lives.
That's all?
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Drew, how long have you been CEO at Princeton Senior Resource Center now?
So I came on board in March of 2019. So I just started my fourth year. And thankfully, I had a year to settle in and get to know people and staff and community before the pandemic changed the world for all of us. So that is when I began.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had some other recent podcasts with people, and a number of them had started literally a couple weeks or a couple months right before COVID. So you had a slight advantage. So.
I was going to say, having a full year always gave me a little comfort, especially as I talked to some of my colleagues who started a week before the pandemic began. So
yeah. So here's a detail not everyone may yet be aware of, but you opened a second site to supplement the program space you have at the Suzanne Patterson Center, which is behind Monument Hall. And I guess the new site has offices and a learning center. Anyway, let me stop and you tell me all about it.
Yeah, so we are delighted to open the Nancy S. Klath Center for Lifelong Learning at 101 Poor Farm Road in Princeton. And the Klath Center for us is home for many of our lifelong learning programs. We have state-of-the-art classrooms. We have a phenomenal technology lab where we give assistance to people with technology needs. We really created the building with gathering spaces for people simply to come together with others from the community and to have a great cup of coffee or to spend time by our fireplace, which we have inside, or out on our beautiful patio. So it's a building that has been something we've talked about for a long time. It's been in our minutes for about 15 years, the need for additional space for our programs. And so the Klath Center is a phenomenal addition to the community, we believe.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive what you've done in that building. I'm actually pretty familiar with the building because a place I used to work years ago actually rented that same building that you now have. So it looked a lot different back then, and so it's nice to see all the upgrades and what a beautiful space you have turned it into.
Well, if I can just say really quickly, we had a phenomenal architecture team with Terry Smith and Juliet Richardson, and we had great builders, and really together we saw a vision for what was, really a standard office building and converted it into this lifelong learning center that I think virtually every time somebody comes to see it, they can't believe that this was just an office building, and the beauty of the space with our gathering spaces and fireplace and lounge and classrooms really did transform this space.
Yeah. So how did you pick that site compared to maybe other places you looked at?
So when I began in March of 2019, by June we had appointed, knowing that this is something the board had been working on, we appointed a building task force, and our primary commitment was to stay in Princeton. We had previously looked at places all over in different communities, but we decided it was important for us to remain in Princeton. And then we were looking for a site that had phenomenal parking and public access, and so those were two, really important values for us. So finding a spot that was on both the municipal bus route that we were able to add, but also on the New Jersey Transit line, just right to the south of us, the New Jersey Transit buses come, and then parking, almost 200 parking spaces out here, which people have been to our programs previously, and the crowd that builds at Monument Hall knows that it's often difficult to find parking, and so having parking access was important for us as well.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how successful many of your programs are, and that you draw so many people that you need to be worried about parking to that degree, right? So I mean, that's
right.
That's a good thing. It's a good problem.
Yep. And we looked all over town. We looked at every property available. We had a team that ran every lead to the ground. We looked at every building and really came to love this location, not only for what the building could offer and the parking, but also it's just a beautiful setting. Trees all around us, and able to design some outdoor spaces that really take advantage of that.
It is a nice setting. I'm reminded when you said that when I worked in the building across the street on the corner of Mount Lucas and Poor Farm, many times we'd have people from New York City come down, and there's deer walking out there, there's fruit trees, there's all kinds of nature happening all around you, and people
Right.
from New York would be looking, going, wait, what is this place?
We actually, as we speak, we have geese nesting on our roof. So we have been lucky enough to be the recipients of a couple that has made their nest home on our roof, and it's phenomenal to come to work every day and be greeted by the geese in the parking lot and on the roof.
There you go. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. What I like to do with people when we're talking to them during these podcasts is just ask a little bit about each person. So, Drew, did you grow up around here or somewhere else?
Yeah, so I was born in Princeton at the old Princeton Medical Center. My father was the pastor of the United Methodist Church down on Vandeventer in the late 60s, early 70s, in that time frame. And so the first 5 years of my life were on Laurel Circle, which many people are familiar with. And so Princeton has always been home for us. We moved when I was 5, and then spent most of my childhood and adolescence at the Jersey Shore in Ocean Grove, and have since been back to Princeton several times for graduate school. So glad to be back again.
That's great, seeing that you have roots here. That makes it. I think that's a nice thing.
It is. It's been great.
So obviously you had a life before the Senior Resource Center. So where were you before you came here?
Yeah, so prior to being in the nonprofit sector, I served as a clergy person in the United Methodist Church, and continue to be a clergy person. I just serve in a different way now, but I served local churches. I taught graduate school, theological school in Washington, D.C., and most recently, prior to coming on board, I was what in our denomination we call a district superintendent, and I served in the central New Jersey area, supervised about 65 churches and clergy in that area, and so that's what I was doing immediately before joining the staff, and I did that for about 6 years prior to joining PSRC.
So hearing that, I assume that you have a personality well suited to dealing with all the varying different thoughts and opinions that come with being a nonprofit in Princeton.
I think that is, I've been well trained for that, and also, just have always had a great appreciation for people. One of the things my mother taught me early on was the best thing in life to be successful is to be curious. So I really try and, be curious about the people I meet. I want to hear their stories. And I think when you take time to hear and get to know the people you're working with, you can appreciate the individual, even if they have differing opinions. And I think that's, important thing in the work that we do, but also in just civic life in general.
No, I would agree. If you actually take the time to listen to people, which not everyone does, but if we do, and actually
Right.
hear what they're saying and take the time to get a little bit about their background and perspectives, it kind of helps when you're having an exchange with somebody. If you have some idea where they're coming from and what their past experiences are, it just helps your level of understanding so much.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So-
I think that is critical.
There's our lesson for the day.
Yeah.
So, Drew, what are you able to do or offer at the 101 Poor Farm Road site that you could not do at the Suzanne Patterson Center?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, our board had been looking at and considering additional space for nearly 15 years. And really, we had simply outgrown the space at Suzanne Patterson. So one of the things that we had been doing for the last several years has been renting space all over the community for our Evergreen Forum classes and other lifelong learning programs that we did. We often had to rent several different facilities at the same time as we were going. And so, the primary thing is just the additional space. We also had, very limited office space at the Suzanne Patterson building. And so, our staff was really crammed in and did excellent work. I always felt a little bit guilty because I had, my own office, but then, most other spaces, we had 2 or 3 or 4 even people sharing a space, and was really crowded. So in this new building, we have classrooms that are larger than any of the classrooms that we had previously. And we're able to do a lecture hall that gives great sight lines for lectures. Our technology lab expanded fourfold. So we had converted a closet previously in Suzanne Patterson to become our technology lab. And so that was pretty crowded. And now we have space to not only house the computers and other technology that we use in that space, but also to do teaching and seminars on technology. The other thing that this space really does for us at the Poor Farm Road location is to provide gathering spaces. Just really, as a place for the community to come and to relax, to have time before a class, after a class. We have several people who just come to sit by the fireplace and read the newspaper and have a cup of coffee. Or yesterday we had a group who had a class and they stayed for lunch and ate on our patio, and they just had a great time together. So those kind of spaces we didn't have in the previous building. Now, having said that, we still, utilize the gymnasium for a lot of our exercise classes, dance classes. Our art classes are at the Suzanne Patterson building. And when we're in full force with things like our Evergreen Forum, the classroom spaces is still in use as well. So this location gives us a great supplement to that, and we're really excited to be here.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear that people are that comfortable that they'll come early or stay late and hang out. I mean, and it's a nice patio to be out there and,
right.
Yeah,
they had a great time. It was nice to, see that put into use. We've got several things planned this spring and summer. We're going to do a music on the patio series where we're just going to have some live music, and we've got a classical guitarist one week and a folk singer another week, and just to do some things where people can get together and enjoy the space and spend time with friends and getting to know new people. So,
well, if I need a place to hide, I'm going to come sit on your patio.
all right, that sounds great. I'm often down there, Mark. I kid you not. In the winter, when I was working on a grant proposal or something else, I would go and sit by the fireplace, and it just was a great place to think. And now I'm often, if I just need some 30 minutes of, what I call strategic time or thinking time, I'll just go sit on the patio, and it's a great space to just clear your head and get some some good innovation going. So
there you go. So every group has been impacted by COVID, obviously. So, I mean, during COVID, I believe that your organization had to pivot to, I guess, almost all online. But how'd you guys do that? And just give us a little bit of what that was like.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that every organization dealt with many of the same challenges. So we realized right at the beginning of March of 2020, I think we really led the way in some degree in terms of the need to shut down because of the community that we serve, the population we serve, what we knew at the time about COVID and older adults being among the most vulnerable, that it was important for us to really value and prioritize the safety of our participants. So we shut down pretty quickly at the beginning of March, and we pivoted online, and within 2 weeks we were offering most of our classes in an online format. So we committed to a platform. So for us it was Zoom. We committed to that platform. We did the trainings, had our staff trained. We began to train volunteers. We took the time organizationally to teach the platform, and I think that was one of the things that was most important. So we had in the first 8 weeks of COVID, we taught about 700 older adults how to use Zoom with different platforms that they had. So I like to say and tell people that those first 8 weeks for most of our staff and volunteers was like living a Saturday Night Live sketch. So if you picture that in your mind, we're just teaching people who are not familiar with the technology, how to use that technology. And we had, 3 months into COVID, I got one of the most powerful letters that I received. It was a woman who was in her mid-80s, and she told me the story about her hosting her family's Passover Seder on Zoom. And so she was writing to say thank you because not only was she able to participate in the things we offered, but because of the teaching that we gave, and one of our tech volunteers spent extra time to teach her, she was the host. And she said, there's lots of people in the family that could have hosted, but I'm always the host. And so just being able to do that was so incredibly meaningful for her. And that for me, is just exactly why we did what we did. It wasn't only about, hey, we need to teach people so that they can participate with us, but we knew that this is where the world was going to be headed for a long time, and to teach people how they can be full participants in that. Zooming now is just a normal part of our vocabulary for many people, but at the beginning it wasn't, and it was scary. And so just offering that assistance was really important. And then the other thing is at the same time, realizing that a number of our constituents were not online and weren't able to be online for different reasons, whether it was the cost of Wi-Fi or not having a device or simply not being comfortable with the technology. And so we committed as a staff to regular telephonic check-ins with people. Just, how are you doing? Is there anything we can do to help you? What are the needs that you have? And that was important. So while going high tech, I used to say high tech and high touch. So yes, we have to go high tech, but we also have to remain in high touch with all of our constituents, not just through technology.
Yeah, I think that whole effort to reach out so much, especially during a time period where the degree of isolation that people experienced was so much higher. I mean, potentially so much higher than usual. And how many? I'm sure there were a number of groups and people that thought, hey, let's reach out to others on a regular basis. But, you guys had a program aimed at just that. So, when you think of all the good that you accomplished, that's just to be commended.
Yeah, really thank you very much. And I will say, I think, Princeton has an extraordinary nonprofit and civic community. And one of the best parts for me about that you see as a silver lining through the pandemic is the way the nonprofit community, the churches, and the council and others came together, and we for almost 15 months met on a weekly basis with agencies and nonprofits, and we were discussing, everything from, access to nutrition to covering how do we do childcare and schooling really well? How do we talk about housing insecurity in the midst of a pandemic? And to see the way the agencies work together, and it's just, in the nonprofit world generally, there's often a perception that there's a competition for resources. But I can honestly say in this community, there was such a coming together, and I am grateful for my colleagues across the board because it was a commitment to the community and to the individuals. And I think that's what was first and foremost in people's minds.
Yeah, I mean, community is important. So anyway, as we hopefully are moving on and dealing with COVID, although I don't think it's ever going to disappear, but anyway, as we try to move on and deal with COVID, and there's more in-person meetings and gatherings, how is the Princeton Senior Resource Center delivering services and programs today versus not too long ago?
Yeah, no, that's great. We just started probably at the beginning of March to open up after the Omicron variant kind of pushed us back a little bit. In the beginning of March, we started to open up for in-person programming, and we have things in the building every day, groups that gather or classes that are held, and so we're beginning to see people come back to that and be comfortable in that. And at the same time, we made a commitment as a board to really developing the technology so that we can continue both virtual and hybrid programs. Because one of the things that we learned is that along the way, many people are ready to come back in person to events and programs, but many people aren't. And so we really needed to invest in the technology. And that's something we probably wouldn't have done to the same extent that we did because of COVID. And that technology really gives us, the chance to make sure our programs are accessible. We put hearing loops in all of our classrooms to help people with auditory issues. We have the hybrid technology, and so we're just really trying to be thoughtful of offering programs for everyone. It's really important to us that we serve the entire community. So we want to serve those who are really anxious to come in person, and we've got things that are happening here. We put operable windows in this building, and if you've been in the building before, that wasn't something here, but in all of our spaces we have operable windows so there can be fresh air and a flow of air throughout the building. And so we're back in person. Our staff is in person. We're welcoming people here, but we're also working hard to provide things virtually and in a hybrid format.
Yeah, I'm on your email distribution list, so I am just amazed at all the different things that you do offer. So with that in mind, what are your most popular programs or services?
So I would say many people know of the Evergreen Forum. That is our top program in terms of number of registrations. We offer 2 semesters, 22 to 25 classes typically in each semester, between 600 and 700 students every semester. And those classes are taught by retired faculty from different institutions, including Princeton, but also retired faculty from Rider and Rutgers and others, some active faculty, some retired folks in industry or in medicine. And the classes, what I love about Evergreen is, they're not what some would define as kind of typical senior center programming. They're classes on political science and literature and the natural sciences, and we have a class always on the Supreme Court and different views on the Supreme Court. And so there's just a breadth of the Evergreen Forum. I think our Grandpals program is one of the things that also many people in Princeton know, because we have right up until COVID, we've partnered an older adult reader with every kindergarten student in Princeton, in the Princeton public school system, and they would read in the schools once a week. And that was just such a phenomenal program. We're anxious to get that back when the schools are ready and people are ready to be in person to that extent again. We've done some intergenerational programming. We're working now with a pen pal program with fourth graders who are learning to write letters. And so, our grandpals have converted to being pen pals. And we have a program with Corner House called Seniors for Seniors, where some of our seniors are paired with the high school seniors in their leadership program at Corner House. And that's a great program as well. And then I think most popular is our support and guidance services. So one of the things that sets us apart from all of the senior centers in Mercer County and most throughout the state is we actually have a social service department. We have social workers on staff who are really committed to helping people walk through the challenges of aging. And so, just the other day I sat with our director of social services, Sharon, and a family, and we were talking about, the importance of care, and this person wanted to stay in home and have care for their spouse. And it was just a wonderful thing for me to see the way our social service team supports the community and can offer guidance and resource connection.
It's a busy place. My gosh.
It is a busy place. It's an incredible thing to be a part of, for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. Disregard that I said I'm on your email list already, but
yeah.
So how do I join the Princeton Senior Resource Center, or how do I take advantage of your services and programs? What's the magic ways to know what's going on?
Yeah, so the best thing you could do, and thank you for the heads up, is to just get on our email list. Go to our website. You can sign up for our email list. Also, you can call us. Just give us a call here at the office. We'll connect you with our email list. We send out our newsletter both electronically, and you can do a paper subscription if that's important for you. We'd love to send you a paper copy of our newsletter. And the website, and those are the best ways to kind of know what's going on. In terms of joining, we're not a membership-based organization, so it's really important for us that we are open to everyone. And when we think about that, when I talk to colleagues working with older adults in the community, we really serve people who are 60 and above. And so that's people who are preparing for retirement, who are early retirement, mid-retirement, late retirement. We have at least 3 generations, and coming up will be bordering on 4 as the lifespan expands. 4 generations of people that we serve at PSRC. And so there's something for everyone. There's no barriers to participation. We have programs that are free, programs that do cost, but for our programs that cost, we have a very generous scholarship program as well. So we really want to eliminate the barriers for everyone. If you see something that you're interested in and it might be a little too much in your budget, all you have to do is give us a call and we will offer a scholarship to you to participate. So that's important for us as well.
Yeah, and it's important for people to be able to fully partake in what you do. So,
right.
All right, so how do people support? I mean, you're a nonprofit, right? So how do we... This is a plug out there, everybody listening.
Yeah.
So how do we help support you? What do we do to make sure you're successful financially?
That's fantastic. So, one thing that we try and do all the time is just communicate that we are a community nonprofit. And that's important because so many people, so many senior centers are municipally owned and operated, and that means their entire budget comes from the municipality. So when people hear senior center, that's often what's in their mind. And we really think we have a better model, which is a public-private partnership. And we've had that partnership with Princeton since 1974. And, that means we raise about 80% of our budget through individual donations, corporate sponsorships. And so people can go to our website, and we have a donate button on our website. We have an annual appeal every year. And so that's one of the best ways to donate. I would love to talk to anybody who's interested in the work that we do and share with them about that. And then also we, from time to time, we'll do fundraisers. We've got a couple great little fundraisers coming up. One, we're doing a cheese tasting class with Olson's Fine Foods. And, so we're going to have wine and cheese one afternoon here in the new building. It would give you a chance to see the building and also support us. we've got one coming up that's a spirits tasting with the Sourland Mountain Distillery, and we're going to be tasting a lot of spirits. So, come and have wine and cheese and spirits, and it's a fun way to support us as well. So we really try and offer lots of ways for people to serve us, but that support is really important to our annual, operations.
That's good.
Thank you.
So let me ask you another question that gets into support.
Yeah.
You must have a capital campaign underway for your new facility. I'm assuming. So, any words you want to share on that?
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I didn't pay you to ask that question either. But we have a $5.3 million capital campaign to run this, to purchase the building, to do the renovations, to be able to run it on an annual basis. We have 4.3 committed from our leadership. And we're just now launching our public phase of our capital campaign. We need to raise $1 million from this community, and I think we'll be able to do that. So we really would encourage people to think about the fact that PSRC and this new facility is a community asset for Princeton that will be here for years to come. So even if you yourself are not in that older adult time frame, it's still something that you will benefit from in the years to come. So consider a gift to our capital campaign. I would love, again, to connect personally with folks who are interested. You can just call our offices and let us know that you're interested, or send me an email directly, and I'd be happy to give you a tour and tell you the details about the campaign. But we really do see this as a community asset and would invite the community to join us in making this a reality.
I hear you. So if I'm looking you guys up on the web, I think it's princetonsenior.org. Is that the right?
Princetonsenior.org is the website, and 751-9699 is the telephone number. So call us, visit our website, send me an email. I'm just ddyson@princetonsenior.org, and I'd love to connect with the folks who are listening.
Okay, good. I always like to make sure we get the contact information somewhere
very specific
during the
out
podcast
there.
so people can say, oh, yeah.
That's right.
All right, so one last question. What do you see unfolding for Princeton Senior Resource Center over the next 3 to 5 years? What's going to be happening, do you think?
Yeah, this is such a great question. We are in the middle of our strategic planning process organizationally now, working on our next 5-year strategic plan that we are hoping to finalize in the next month or two. And some of the things that I think you'll see is further expansion of our support and guidance services. So the work that we do in supporting the community with support groups, social work services, some growth in the areas of early memory loss. That's something that we found people are really asking for. Help with ways that you can stave off memory loss, but also when you're experiencing that, how can you navigate that territory? We will also be working and continuing our work with affordable housing communities to serve the residents in those communities, and the new affordable housing units for seniors that are going up right near the shopping center. And so, we expect our support and guidance services will continue to expand with that. We'll see an expansion in our lifelong learning programs. That is a lot of what we read about older adults and the future of older adults is engagement. And what I always like to encourage people to do is to step outside the box and really do something that you never had time to do when you were working. So we have art classes and classes that are challenging from an academic standpoint, and we have things that you can learn how to do for the first time, and exercise to keep yourself healthy. So just an expansion of those lifelong learning programs, and with the new building. And then there'll be a lot of work on the virtual and hybrid space, again, to try and reach more people. One of the things that we found in COVID that has been phenomenal And another one of those silver linings is people who used to come to the senior center, but then now are homebound and they have home care, but they can log on to an event and they can participate in a class. So residents of our community who just don't get out as much as they were able to do previously. And so this virtual and hybrid programming is going to be an important part of our future as well. So we can continue to connect with the greatest number of people.
Good to hear. Thank you. So I just want to repeat your phone number one more time, because I know a lot of places when you dial, you got to include the area code. So
right. 609-751-9699.
There we go. All right. Hey, Drew, thank you so much for sharing all this, and thanks for being with us today. This was really good. I appreciate it.
Mark, thank you very much. It's been great, and I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for joining us for episode 17 of the Princeton Podcast. Produced as a community service by HG Media, providing audio, video, and website design services here in Princeton since 1999. If you enjoyed this episode of the Princeton Podcast, please share it with your friends. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.